if you can embrace like this middle ground where it's not like we're gonna have all of the stuff around or we're gonna have none of it around. I've had clients come to really interesting solutions. One, for example, like had an upstairs and a downstairs fridge. I'm working all day upstairs.
Nice.
And so if you can keep your stuff in the downstairs fridge, it's like enough of a barrier that like I'm not gonna walk the extra, it sounds silly, but like I'm not gonna walk the extra 5 steps to like go down there and get it.
Welcome to the Hale Fitness Podcast. I am Coach Jay. I am here with
Coach Katie
and
Coach Wendy
and
Coach Rebecca.
Today we're going to talk about your environment. What is in your kitchen? What does your kitchen look like? And all the other things that go with an environment of eating healthy and supporting your health and fitness.
Yeah.
So I want to start by asking, what is the most like tempting thing that you have in your kitchen? Or hidden somewhere, maybe not in your kitchen. What's the most tempting thing?
leftover German chocolate cake.
Yum.
Leftover German chocolate
How
cake.
old is it? It's just been there for months.
My birthday was on Friday. Okay, come on now.
Well, it's Wednesday.
Yes.
That's kind of a long time.
Okay, if you put it in the fridge, it doesn't go bad.
Yeah, that's like, it's got another week and a half.
Yeah.
Well, not if you
Okay.
pour soap on it.
I'll still eat it.
Just eat around the soap.
Heck yeah, it's a good German chocolate cake, okay?
All right. What about you, Coach Rebecca?
We have these Trader Joe arepas that we would cook in the
Yum.
oh my god, air fryer. They're pretty good. They're delicious actually.
Trader
And then I used to
Joe's?
put fig sauce on it
Oh.
and to give it a little bit of sweetness.
Wow.
It's really good. They're really good. We actually gave them to our neighbors recently.
Katie?
So I have a problem with this question because tempting implies there's like a good and a bad, whatever. I don't have anything like that because I give myself permission to eat all the things.
All right.
And so there's nothing that I feel like I'm having to resist at my house right now. But if you want to talk about indulgent things, I would say I've got a box of Lucky Charms.
Okay. Now that the virtue is signaled, I will...
What about you?
I will tell
Yeah.
you. Let's see. We usually have like some kids snacks things. So we have like these little like baked green bean things. I forget what they're called.
Green bean chips?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
They're like
Those are your kids'
Snap
snacks?
peas? Is it?
yeah.
I know which one. Yeah, I know
but
what you're
they're
talking
they're
about.
like
Yes.
fried.
Yeah.
And then like almond flour crackers and stuff like. I mean, it's just like little stuff like that. Where it's like, if I'm like rummaging around the kitchen, and we're just out of food or whatever, I'm like, oh, those look pretty good. Whatever. It's not that tempting.
Yeah.
And part of the reason for that is, it's not that indulgent. I don't know, whatever word.
Go for it.
But part of the reason for that is because, with us and with our kids, we kind of just don't bring a lot of that stuff into our house. And it's not because we don't like it. I mean, we'll go out and eat and things like that, but it's because it's just much easier to stick to the type of foods that we want to eat if we don't keep them in our environment.
Yeah.
Right? So we were talking earlier about like how one of the biggest challenges that people have is the environment maybe that they came from doesn't necessarily support where they want to go. Would you say that's true? Is it a pretty common thing that comes up with your clients?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Tell me more.
So I've got a good example of like, it's like, okay, working with a client, really common problem or challenge is like getting to the end of the day and like sitting on the couch watching TV and wanting to eat a snack. And so it's like, okay, we set the goal of let's try to front load the day, eat as much as you can early on in the day, and then maybe you're not as snackish at night, but we're aiming for like something like 5 out of 7 consistency, right? Give ourselves a couple of nights to like enjoy whatever. And it's like, okay, we check in the next week. It's like, ooh, that didn't happen. Or I had this thing, I had this thing, I had this thing. And it's like, well, one question is, all right, what did the front part of the day look like? And the other question is like, if you didn't want this thing, like, is there a reason it's around? And like usually, it's interesting because like sometimes the answer is, I'll say most often it's like my partner wants this thing, or it's like this is around for my kids, or whatever, right? And it's like in the house. Or sometimes folks will like clean out their kitchen and it's like, yeah, but I stopped at the store and I got X thing, right? And so, I would say if you're looking at like context of like, environment matters, that's just one example. Like, for some people, it's not useful to have all the things in the house.
Yeah. And for other people, they can't avoid that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? Or it's really hard to avoid that. Maybe they don't do the shopping. Maybe they're, kid, you will only eat certain foods. They're going through that phase or whatever. Do you have any examples of folks that have had to deal with that?
Yeah. The other roommates, right? It's another big one where they have...
Worst.
Huh?
They're the worst.
Yeah. There could be those roommates where their priority is not fitness. It's not, watching out with their nutrition. It's more let loose. They don't really care about that. And then you have that person who really cares about their fitness and their nutrition and they're working hard. And then you have, I want to say, that temptation to join, right? Them, like for girls' night out, and there's going to be alcohol, and you're trying to stay away from that. But at the same time, you want to have fun with your girlfriends. So that's like the biggest, I would say, common thing that I tend to see too. And even with with a partner, right? Husband, whatever the case is, not being on the same plan makes it harder for that client to stick to a plan when you have that environment around you.
So if you had a choice with your clients, any of the ones that you work with, would you have them change their environment or have them change their sort of behavior related to that environment?
Everybody get a divorce. Move out.
Live on your own.
Live on your own.
But I mean, that's
the question.
That's a question. I mean, maybe, hey, if you're that serious about nutrition, maybe you do follow Rebecca's advice. But
it'll be $5,000.
But yeah, well, it'd be a lot more expensive than that if you're divorcing. Okay. But I think it's like, this is the thing. Like, there's something that you want to change, and people can go kind of externally, or they can go internally. Right? They can go and say, hey, no more Lucky Charms in the house because that is a food that I struggle with and I do not want that. So kids, you're eating muesli every day from now on. Right? And that's one way to approach it. Another way is like learn how to coexist with the Lucky Charms because your kids like Lucky Charms. Right? So which way would you go? If you had a choice, how would you do it?
I think it depends on the person. Right? So if the person like really needs to have those Lucky Charms out of the house because that's the one thing that's stopping them to move forward with their progress, then it's worth having a conversation with their environment. This could be with, partner, roommate, or whatever the case is, and kind of have a middle ground, right? But it all depends of how much that person can handle, right? Some people, like myself, I live with my sister. She has a whole bunch of stuff that I don't typically eat, right? But I'm tempted, but I don't really need it, right? I'm okay. I can see it, and I won't take a bite of that stuff, right? But that's just me. Some people, they need to have that out of their house in order to help them, to make progress with their plan. So it just really depends on the person. But I always start with, let's have a conversation with your environment, right? Let's have a chat. What's the middle ground, right? I don't necessarily think it's fair for the whole house to eat, whatever the plan, or stick to that plan because it's not fair for them, right? Like, especially if you have kids, they're not going to be eating broccoli every single, right? Or, just protein. Like that's just not fair for them. So it's just a matter of finding a middle ground. That's how I see it. And that can be pretty much anything. Just depends on what works and what doesn't. But I think it depends. It really depends on the person.
That's a great non-answer.
I keep picturing people having conversations with an environment. We're just sitting there.
But you know what I'm talking about. The environment could be,
kitchen.
just...
Yeah, kitchen. Clear yourself out. Prepare the food. Do the dishes.
All right. Are you guys done now?
I need to go talk to my environment for a second.
Hey, you know what? We might be a few years away from that happening.
Oh God, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh shoot.
Yeah. So speak to your environment. So, I guess it's funny. Yeah. The answer is it depends. Personally, I find that it's actually like it's easier if the environment supports your goal, whatever that is. It's just much easier. And we might have talked about this before, but in the book Atomic Habits, they talk about how something like 20 or 30% of American soldiers were addicted to heroin when they were in Vietnam. And part of it was because heroin was really easy to get. A lot of other soldiers were doing heroin. The war was stressful, whatever. And normally, people that are addicted to heroin, it's like 9 out of 10 of them relapse at some point. So they had this like epidemic of people that were addicted. Then they brought them back and they put them in sort of treatment centers or whatever. And only like 10% of them actually went back and did heroin again after coming back to the United States because the environment was completely different. Mm-hmm. They didn't have their friends around that were doing it. They didn't have easy access to it. They'd have to actually go find it. Mm-hmm. They have to go do hard work to go find it. And so they just, I went through this thing and now I gave it up, right? And it just kind of it's a nice story to kind of illustrate how important your environment is in influencing your behavior.
Yeah.
And so I personally would say for a lot of people, changing your environment, finding a way to change your environment to support your goals is going to help make it easier. It's not going to solve all the problems because at a certain point there are going to be Lucky Charms around and you need to be able to handle that. But in order to get there, I think for a lot of people, there needs to be kind of a reset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like with the caveat of usually like starting a thing, it's one of the easiest ways to start. And even if you're not cleaning out like all of the indulgent foods in your house, because I also know folks who's like, if you get rid of everything, there's like this scarcity mindset thing that happens that now makes it more attractive. It's like all they think about. So for some people, I know it can be helpful just to like have a couple things, but the cleaning out still matters. And that could be like getting rid of all the old expired things that just sit around, right?
Like German chocolate cake.
Yeah.
It's not expired.
She's going to go have a conversation.
Stay fresh.
You have to say it in German, though. So I'd be like, Stockfrosch.
We're doing great, guys. We're doing so good. Best episode ever.
9. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, well, yes.
But like, okay, but
Happy
point
birthday.
being, like starting out that way and like building good habits with a good environment makes it a lot easier when things come into it later on. But if you're like trying to start something new with an environment that's not conducive, it's like really hard to start off with those skills of like, okay, what do I need to like manage in order to coexist with this Entenmann's mince coffee cake, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that we keep mentioning kids because one of the things I found with my kids is if you have only certain foods available, they will get hungry enough to eat those foods.
Yeah.
Right? So like one of the big struggles is how do you get your kids to eat vegetables? And one way is like don't have a whole bunch of other stuff in the house that makes it so that they won't eat the vegetables, right? Now there is the other side of it is just like kids sometimes need higher calories, higher carbohydrates, that kind of thing, and you don't want to kind of deny them that, but you don't necessarily need to have Lucky Charms just because you have kids, right? You can have other things that are still supporting your environment. It's also actually I think easier with kids because they're not doing the shopping. Like you're doing the shopping, right? And so you get to decide sort of what you have versus like the roommate thing, that's harder. Like they're coming home with stuff all the time, right? So I guess the question I have is like, so now you've decided, you want to go on this plan and you're going to, eat certain foods and avoid other foods, let's say, right? How do you start to change your environment? Like what do you do? No idea.
Have a conversation with it.
So, Katie, you before you started here, you used to go to people's kitchens and clean them out, right?
Yep. Yeah, that would be one of the first things that we would do.
Yeah.
It was actually really cool. Like, Yeah, because it would also introduce me to like, what are the kinds of foods that you like? Like, what's your background? Like, what does your family make? All this stuff. So there's actually like a lot of stories associated with it too. It was kind of fun. But yeah, that like cleaning the kitchen out. So we would always do that. And then the fun part, what we would like treat as the fun part is like, now let's like imagine all the things that we want to fill it with. So like that's part 2. It's like now you have all this space because you just like cleaned all this stuff out and it's amazing. Now it's like, what's the stuff that you want to put there? It's like stuff that's going to meet your goals and you're also actually going to be excited to have.
Yeah.
So it's like putting together that list becomes like from a physical environment standpoint, like the next thing. But there's like all of the stuff around, like people also collect a ton of things and sometimes their kitchen is so cluttered that it's like they have 50 pots and it prevents them from using like the one because they have to go digging through. So sometimes it's just like, how many pots and pans do you have? How many do you need? How many mugs do you need, right? Like there's like a whole even just like
So
kitchen
you were like
environment.
tossing people's like
Yeah.
cookware and stuff?
Yep.
Like, wow, like, was that Marie Kondo?
I guess so, yeah. Yeah.
You know that the life-changing
Does
magic
not
of...
spark joy. Yeah.
Yeah, does this pot spark joy?
What's funny is like I found like giving people that task to do, they'd be into it, and then it was like 9 out of 10 times wouldn't make time for it. There's always something better to do on the weekend than like clean your kitchen out. And so by like making that an appointment, it was like, it's happening.
Yeah,
And like it always sets people up better.
yeah. Wendy, what have you found has worked for some of your clients in terms of the first steps in changing their environments?
That's probably it. Clean the kitchen.
Okay.
Yeah, well, because again, like you need to know what you have. Like some people don't even know that they have like a 2-year-old Lucky Charms. Like they just have it there, right? But they don't even eat it. It's just the fact that they want that in there.
Yeah.
So it's just cleaning up and then adding new stuff there. It's pretty much how we start.
Yeah.
And that could be like week 1, right? That's pretty much what we'll do for week 1.
Right. Do people do it?
Yeah, they for sure do it. Okay. Yeah, I actually had one of the clients record.
Oh, that's so good. Before and after. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. They, that was pretty cool to see that. But yeah, they actually do it. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you, Rebecca, how do you manage to, I mean, do you sort of control your eating environment at home? And if
What's
so, how
the
do you do
oldest
that?
thing in your fridge?
Well, actually, I just got rid of spices, and the oldest spice I had was from 2011. I think.
Nice.
Yeah, it moved with me from our old place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so at some point I moved, and I just forgot I had it.
Do they taste better when they're aged?
I don't know. There was a joke in there, and I didn't. Like,
Old Spice?
oh,
shoot. Sorry, Fran.
what was the question?
That was pretty good, Old Spice. So how do you control your kitchen environment?
Yeah, I eat the same thing over and over and over again. And then if I add anything new, it might be a new spice or let's try a new type of protein. And then from there, if I see a recipe that I like, oh, I want to cook my fish this way, then maybe I'll add in an odd ingredient on the next grocery trip. But for the most part, it's, the same.
Does your husband and kid eat the same thing too?
Sebastian basically eats noodles and sauce, and I have no desire to eat it. Like I just don't want to eat it.
Yeah.
So that makes it easy. He also likes avocado toast.
Okay.
So we have avocados. He really is carby. He loves smoothies, which is great. So we always have fruit around. So that's good.
Do you and Alex eat the same things?
For the actually no.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't eat fish. I don't really eat red meat.
Yeah.
We come together with chicken. He likes
Chicken brings us
He could eat Mexican food every day if he needs to. I kind of get over it. So
do you eat dinner together, or is it kind of like catch as catch can?
yeah, it's like generally the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Or we'll have the same sides. And just different proteins. That's generally how it is. So it's seasoned essentially the same, but I'll have sea bass and he'll have, and then he'll make his meat to last 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So, and then Sebi will eat that as well. So he will eat, you know.
So you guys meal prep like for the whole family?
Yeah, I guess it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like sort of, kind of.
Yeah.
You also meal prep for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they come together with the chicken, right?
Sebastian doesn't eat chicken though.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I
that
see.
is the wrench
I
there.
see. I see. But yeah, I mean, they're prepping for 3 days? Would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so I eat the same breakfast every day, same second breakfast every day. And then lunch is usually leftover from dinner.
Yep.
And so the dinner is big enough for a few days.
So my question is, who packs the daily meals? Do you pack each your own, or how does that work?
Alex does.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just like, there'll be a bunch of stuff cooking, and he'll make some like fish for you and like steak for himself or whatever. And then you might maybe eat together, maybe not, but then he'll pack the meals.
Yeah, and that's primarily because I'm a mess and he is a clean freak and he gets a lot of anxiety around me cooking. And so I'm basically outlawed from making things.
That's convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Darn it.
I bet you're hella clean, but you just like figured out this hack.
The last time I made soup, I managed to get soup all over the stove.
Oh no, I can't make soup. That's smart, really smart.
What
That's
about
good
you, Jay?
thinking. Yeah, so it's interesting. Like, the meals that I eat, like the ground turkey thing, whatever. Like, I make that once, and I'll make that night. Usually, the family will have some, but the rest of the week, I'm the only one who eats it. Right.
Ah, okay.
And sometimes I'll make a little extra, and they'll have it. The kids kind of eat like sometimes leftovers of that stuff. Sometimes Tina will make like her, like chicken one night or whatever.
Yeah.
And she'll make a whole chicken, and I'll have a little bit, and then she'll have some, and the kids will eat it like for the next couple days, and it'll be like that. So I'll make one big one. She'll usually do one or two little ones, and that feeds her and the kids. But it's generally separate because for me, it's like I'm kind of measuring the stuff.
Yeah.
And I want it to be like a certain amount.
Yeah.
And if they want more, then great. But they don't love like leftovers. So the kids won't eat leftovers as much.
Yeah, Sebastian, what annoys me, because, he likes the Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
And, like, I'll just, if he wants it the next day, I'll just warm it up. And then maybe I'll add a little bit of butter to make it taste different.
Yeah.
Alex will cook a brand new one. And then I'm like, there's one in the fridge. Oh, so he doesn't like leftovers.
Yeah.
It tastes the same.
But it comes from a box, right? Like, it's
the same.
yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. I think at some point, way back in the day, we figured out that it was just like, because, sometimes you'll go through a phase where you'll be eating a certain way and the other person will be eating a different way. And so we were just like, you know what? You do your thing.
Yeah.
I'll do my thing. We
Yeah.
don't have to have this like family dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
let's let go of it so we can eat our own
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah.
we do that long enough and you're like, okay, I know how to take care of my
Yeah.
own shit.
Yeah.
And then you eventually kind of come back together. It's like,
Yeah.
we'll eat dinner, 2, 3,
Right.
4 nights a week together.
Right.
The other nights, it's like not a big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
The other
Yeah.
thing I like, for example, I have a few clients that pretty much do that. That's their system.
Yeah.
Right. They both just do their own thing.
Yeah.
But then on like Sunday or Saturday, they have day night, right?
Yeah.
Where they go out and then they enjoy a dinner together.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, that's our time, right?
Yeah.
We're kind of making up for the week.
Yeah.
So that works great too.
Yeah. Yeah. We were doing a thing where we're like, okay, we're going to eat dinner together every night, like 6:30.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you have 1 or 2 weeks where things go haywire and you're just like, well, that's not happening. And now I'm waiting for you. And now it's like a whole thing. So we just like let go of that.
Yeah.
And, I still do my prep, and every so often we will come together and, usually like 2 or 3 nights a week, and that makes it work. And, sometimes the kids have frozen burritos for dinner, right? And it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
But that's kind of how it works. And I think, especially if you, for example, have roommates, if you do your food prep on Sunday, now you have a bunch of food. Now it's like, you might see the, leftover whatever, Chick-fil-A. There's never leftover Chick-fil-A. But, like something leftover, like leftover German chocolate cake. But you also have your meals. And it's just easier for you to go, okay, well, I'm on track. I'll just pop my meal in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that has worked in the past with a situation like that. Just basically meal prep your whole entire week. That way you have that there, but you know that you have your food there.
Yeah.
And eventually what happened with that situation, roommates wanted to join.
Yeah.
Because they saw how easy that week went for my client. And, that person didn't have to wake up super early to make breakfast before going to work, right?
Yeah.
Or had to stay up until 10 o'clock at night making dinner, right?
Yeah.
Or door dashing, right?
Yep.
So eventually what happened was one of the roommates was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this meal prep thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
So, that was actually... She's the leader
like
there
a
now.
revolution.
Yeah.
That's called speaking to your environment.
Also,
it works.
Also think there's just like a ton of room for creativity in like figuring out how to make it work with two people or a family or whatnot. And it's like, if you can embrace like this middle ground where it's not like we're gonna have all of the stuff around or we're gonna have none of it around. Like I've had clients come to really interesting solutions. Like one, for example, like had an upstairs and a downstairs fridge. So it's just like, I'm working all day upstairs.
Nice.
And so if you can keep your stuff in the downstairs fridge, it's like enough of a barrier that like, I'm not going to walk the extra, it sounds silly, but like, I'm not going to walk the extra 5 steps to like go down there and get it.
Yeah.
Right? I've had others, actually, I had a funny couple who I worked with in Connecticut who like, they actually came up with a system where it's like, I'm going to put a dial padlock on one of the cabinets. All of my favorite goodies are going to go in there and like, you're not going to know the code. Great. Like it worked for them. And who am I to judge it? Like awesome. Like whatever's kind of going to work.
Yeah.
And then others where it's like one group of folks that decided to make it a game. So we chose to gamify it. Like, okay, for every time that my husband has a bowl of ice cream and I don't, I get a gold star. And it was just like that little act of like, he's doing the thing, I'm choosing not to, and that's my win of the week. Was like enough of a game to make it then like, actually the end of the story there was like, the husband actually ended up being like, I see how what you're doing, I'm ditching the ice cream too. But like, so sometimes that happens too. But I just think there's like a lot of room to kind of figure out what that in between is that's gonna work.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the next step is once you decide like, okay, I want to do this, and you start thinking these are the things that need to change. How do you have that conversation with the people that are around you in your environment to make that change? Like, how do you approach that first conversation?
Yeah. That's tough.
No. Just throw shit out. That's what Wendy does, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Just like all that stuff you like, that's in the trash now. This is going trash food because it's trash.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, right, that person joined it's either got a coach, right, or joined a gym or did something, an action step to change something, right? Yeah. So the other partner or family or whatever saw that action step. So I want to say if people love you and support you.
That's loaded right there. If they loved you, they would do this.
No, I mean, they're going to find a way to support you, right?
Yeah, I get it.
If not, then it's like, why do you even have those people around you? Like, that's just how it, like.
Damn.
This is where you have the runner at the bottom of the divorce lawyer.
Yeah, 555.
Yeah. This is really
Get him the hell out of
This is
here.
really just an infomercial for a law firm. Running at 11 o'clock at night.
It's like if they support you, they will find a way to help you get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that like idea of asking for support. The thing that I think is really so helpful to remember around food is like food is so, it's like can be a really sensitive topic for everyone. It's like deeply personal. And so like for everyone who's involved. And I think the key is to like be able to separate here's the behavior, here's the food or whatever it is from like you as a person, right? So it's like, can we have a conversation about the thing? But I think like anytime you're approaching a topic that's like sensitive or could be taken personally with another person is like go in with like the most gentleness. like gentleness for yourself, like gentleness for the other person versus like, this is a thing that I deserve, want, need.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, let's figure this out together, but being clear about the things that feel like support for you.
Yeah.
So I had a client who tried to have this conversation with their partner. Their partner heard, you want support, and the support that they provided was trying to keep her accountable. So like, hey, I see you reaching for that thing. Like, is that what you should be doing? That was what he thought support was. That actually made her feel really bad,
Yeah,
like
that's
real
rough.
hurt, right?
Yeah.
And she carried that for a long time. So it was like he heard that she wanted to feel supported, and he was doing what he thought was supportive. So later, then they had another conversation, and she was able to define like, here's what support from you means. I have accountability support from my coach. That's not the support that I need from you. And it's interesting because like since she's told me like he's even like started to say the thing and like pulled it back. Like, wait, nope, that's not supportive. So like being clear about like what does support from you look like, and
Yeah.
can you know?
Yeah, no, I really, really love that. From my own personal perspective, I'm the one who will like clear out the kitchen and like replace it with, you know, whatever. Like you could just go to Costco and buy like a whole bunch of, you know, black beans or whatever. And like, this is all we're eating now. And then I cook it for the whole week. And it's like, great, eat your fucking black beans and chicken breasts. And like, that's actually not the best way to do it either. I think the approach, I kind of like what you were saying about like the client who just like, they started doing the thing and they sort of set the example. And then the other folks were like, oh, maybe that's actually something that I might want to do. And then it feels like you're leading like a revolution.
Yeah.
Versus like on day one, like, all right, you fucker, like, you know, let's
Yeah.
let's clean all this stuff up
Right.
when you haven't really actually tried it yourself. Yeah. So I think it's maybe a combination of those things. It's like you do the thing for a while, you say, hey, I'm doing this, and then you ask for support in the way that makes the most sense for you.
Yeah.
So. So we nailed it then.
There you go.
Problem solved.
Problem solved. And if not, then Rebecca has a phone number you can call.
555.
All right. Well, you know, I think what's important here is that your environment has a huge impact on whether you're going to be able to stick to your plan. And it may be that you have to kind of be that lone sort of wolf for a while doing it on your own.
Yeah.
But it's impossible to do that forever.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it is like you said, I mean, it's tough to say, like, if people around you love you and support you, then, and you ask for that support, then you can figure out a way to kind of help change your environment. Yeah. So excellent. Anything else to add here? No. Okay.
I'm gonna eat some German chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I'm gonna apply some
My-
Old Spice.
3-week-old German chocolate cake.
I'm gonna go
Yum.
talk to a wall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Rebecca put in a call to your environment. The cake's gone. All right, we will see y'all next time. Appreciate you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, we've got plenty of others. Go check out this one over here.